I'm glad to see you guys again. I was gone last week in case you were here, and I was gone. And it kind of leads into what we're doing. We're going to talk about excellence tonight. So I want to tell you a little bit about what happened with me over the last week that was pretty challenging and pretty cool all at the same time. I had to go down to Texas to a small town that's about an hour and a half southwest of Dallas. Little town down there, Tim, you know, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You go southwest of Fort Worth and Dallas, and you're kind of into nowhere. Yeah, right? So I go down there, and I'm representing a client who has a product liability case going against them. So everything is a fine point and a technicality in these deals. Trust me, they're looking for everything they can. So any reason they can to say it's your fault, not our fault. So basically what this boiled down to was about 3 insurance companies fighting over who was going to pay a very large bill. So I get charged by this client to go down there and make sure that the lawyers present the case appropriately. I have some intimate knowledge of the product, and I'm going to help them fight this fight. I get down there, and one of the other insurance companies sends 2 guys from New York that, listen, you're not laughing. Is anybody in here from Texas? Seriously, anybody in here from Texas? Because Texas, half the people in Texas think they're in their own country anyway. Like Texas is not part of the U.S., right, Tim? I'm not exaggerating. And the other half just don't like anybody else. They just like people from Texas. So I'm down here in Texas, and these 2 guys from New York show up, and I'm not kidding you, man. I mean, they're wearing skinny suits, and they're right, man. I mean, they are looking very pristine. And the judge is just a big old Texas guy about like me, and he's just reared back behind that big bench up there, and he is the king of all he surveys. You can tell that's his attitude. So he starts out, and he's in the middle of a sentence, and one of these New York lawyers says, "Excuse me, Judge, I need a 5-minute recess. I got to see the gents." And the judge says, just looks at him, and he says, "See the gents." And the judge says, "Son, you're in Texas. You're going to have to learn how to speak English down here." He says, the attorney stands there, he says, "I got to go to the restroom." And he says, "Okay, you got 5 minutes, but don't forget you're on the jury's time." And the judge starts talking to the jury, and he knows them all because they're all from the same small town. So there's 12 jurors plus 1 alternate and this judge that all know each other. Kids go to school together. You can tell by the way they're acting. And I'm thinking, as long as I don't let it slip that I'm from Oklahoma, I'm going to be all right, Scott. Like, things are going to turn out okay. So I was able to keep my mouth shut the whole time and watch this play out like my cousin Vinny, because one of these guys that was there actually looked like Vinny, little guy with a pompadour hairdo and cowboy boots, wearing some really awkward suits with it. And so he looks like, has anybody seen My Cousin Vinny? Tyler, you've seen it, right? That's funny. It was that happening right there. It was so awesome, man. It's like I had to pay admission to see My Cousin Vinny. Somebody's paying me to do this. This is cool. So anyway, they go through the whole thing, and so we won. That's the great news. But what the whole point of this is to tell you that there was a document out of reams of paper. I'm telling you, there were 6 attorneys involved from 3 different insurance companies, and all of them carrying boxes of files and paper on this one claim. One claim. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got killed. It was all about money, and they had boxes and boxes of paper and one sheet of paper that when I originally started working with this client of mine, I instituted that piece of paper, not because I'm smart, because I was led by the Spirit, because I thought, these people are going out and installing these apparatus that are worth tens of thousands of dollars to support things that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there's no sign-off that says we installed it and the customer approved it. So see, I say that to you because you've had Sears come to your house and put in a garbage disposal or drop off a washer and dryer, and you sign something when they do to prove that they came, they did what they were supposed to do, and they left. okay? Well, this company for years had been in business for 40 years, had never done that before, so we started doing that. And I will tell you that every step of the way, when I first instituted that paperwork, everybody in that company, up to and including the president, fought with me about it. Like, it slows things down too much. We're going to go out here and do this, and then we got to wait for the customer to show up to say it's okay. Yeah, you do. If you're going to protect yourself, yeah, you do. So it was a fight all the way through, and it was me constantly. I can't tell you how many people that I forced their supervisor to write them up because they wouldn't do it, or they didn't do it. But in this case, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that way eclipses any amount of money I'll ever make from them, that one piece of paper swung that decision. So if you enforce excellence in your job, and if you allow excellence to be enforced in you when you're on the job or when you're serving in your area at the church, if you allow excellence or you enforce excellence, you'll win every time. Excellence never loses. Let's take a look at Psalm 8. And I'm sorry for that long story, but I thought it was kind of cool because I won. So if that's okay, Mary, if that's all right that I won, I'll take a win every time. So we won. All right, Psalm 8. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth, who have set your glory above all the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have ordained strength because of your enemies, that you may silence the enemy and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. You've put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, even the beasts of the field, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea that pass through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. God has set you up with all this junk under your feet. And it says it right there. It's not what I think. It's not what I suppose. It's not what I have dreamed up. God set this up for you to be above and not beneath. It says it right there. If you're wondering about that, if you're arguing about that, if you're down in the mouth right now and you're thinking, God, why am I in this job that I'm in? Or why am I in this internship that I am in? Or why am I serving this person that doesn't care about me? And frankly, I don't really care about them. If you're wondering about all that, God put all those feelings under your feet. You don't have to feel that way. You choose to feel that way. So you can get up above it, which is where God placed you. It says right here that God put everything under our feet. We have to be excellent because everything is under our feet. We are in charge of every situation we walk into. It doesn't matter what the boss thinks. It doesn't matter what your spouse thinks. It doesn't matter what your kids are doing. We care about all that. But you have to understand that God placed you in authority so that all those things and all this stuff that goes on in the world can't pull you off track. See, you won't have to have a debate with your spouse about things, or your girlfriend or boyfriend, your significant other. You won't have to debate issues with them if the two of you walk in the authority that God gave you, okay? You don't have to fight, right? If you stand above all that stuff, it takes fighting over money out of the picture. I've been married 30 years. Trust me, you fight about money. Anybody that's married in here, sooner or later, you're going to hook it up over that, all right? But you can stay up above that, okay? And sometimes you'll fight about the kids and where they're going to go to school. Because you know, nowadays it's different. You got options. You can send your kid to a private school, or you can send them to public school, or you can transfer them to the next district over and have them go to that public school. And you'd be shocked how many parents have issues because they can't decide where they're going to send their kids. My argument, Scott, was public school is good enough for me, and look how I turned out, right? Look at me, honey. Why would you want to send the kids to a private school? My kids pretty much went through private school. That was the wrong example to use. So they pretty much went to Christian schools throughout. There was a time period in there where I won, Tim. When I was flat broke and I couldn't afford any tuition, they went to public school like I did. I'll tell you guys a real quick story. People don't believe this. This is one of the reasons why it's such an honor to get to stand up in front of people and speak about the Word of God, because when I was a kid, we really didn't have anything. I grew up on a truck patch. Does anybody in here know what a truck patch is? Okay, a truck patch is when you're too poor to live on a farm, right? Like you got a little patch of ground, you don't have a big patch. You're not raising hay because there's not enough room for hay. Like you got to take all the grass out so you can grow something to eat. All right, so I grew up on a truck patch, and we used to sleep under the hay truck, right? Like throw a tarp on the ground and sleep under the hay truck, because we all had jobs during the day and we hauled hay of a night. So you just flipped on the overhead lights on the truck so you could see a little bit, and we were hauling hay. If you were just hauling regular fence row hay, you got paid a nickel a bale to throw it on a truck, take it to the co-op and unload it in their storage facility, which was hell on earth because it's like 1,000 degrees in there. It really is. It's awful, and there's hay dust and all that. And then if you were hauling alfalfa, which in those days we did square bales. You've probably seen them, right? They weren't all round and you could do it with a pickup truck. We were hauling square bales. A bale of alfalfa weighed 90 pounds. And you were a 14, 13-year-old kid bucking 90-pound bales of hay all day for 7 cents a shot. And you thought you were uptown because you got 7 cents instead of 5. So just knowing that I come from that and I'm able to speak to you guys today, and I'm able to get to go to Texas and sit in on a court case that's worth more money than my dad ever saw in his life, ever dreamed of, that there's people sitting down there making decisions about things that would have absolutely changed his life financially, it's an honor to be in this place. But you don't get here, you don't make that journey, you don't cross that bridge without being excellent, without putting some things. It doesn't mean that I'm an excellent person, but it does mean that there are some things I do excellently. Some things I'm not excellent at, and those are the things I have to work on, okay? Same thing for you. You will do some things excellently, and other things you won't be as great at, but you're going to be working on those. So it's like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We're either there or we're under construction to get there, okay? Everybody good with that? You understand what I'm saying? All my crazy stories, they have a point, okay? You got to understand that everybody comes from somewhere. You have an opportunity to be excellent and be better than anybody else around at your job. And this is not about me and Cassidy competing to see who can be the best at our job. It's not about that. It's about Cassidy and I being in covenant and striving towards the same goal of bringing people to Jesus, helping God get to them through this church, that we can strive for excellence together. And heck, we can even have some fun and be a little competitive, because she gives me a hard time, okay? So Katie gives me a hard time, all right? But it's because they're competitive people and they want to be excellent and they want to see me be excellent and I want to see them be excellent. So that's a win for everybody. So you can stop all this crying around and acting like you're mistreated, or that somebody's getting the better of you, or it's not fair the way your boss talks to you, or that employee who won't do what you tell them to do is getting away with murder because the boss won't let you fire them, and you get your feet where they belong, which is up above all that nonsense, okay? You can walk above it because the Word says that you can. All right. Leadership requires a spirit of excellence. If you don't have or strive for excellence in every area of your life, you are not going to fulfill the leadership call that's on your life. You have got to get that gear in place and your foot on the gas and going as hard as you can to be excellent and to perform excellently. And I keep telling people, I meet these young people that start out in jobs that they are convinced are beneath them. And frankly, I'm convinced it's beneath them too, okay? Because they are hauling pop cans at a grocery store and I see an accountant in them, okay? Or they are sacking groceries at that grocery store and I see them managing a department there, all right? I can see that, so it's got to be pretty plain because I'm not very smart, all right? So I can see that, and what I see them doing is, doggone it, they're giving into it. They give in to that and say, no, this is just what it is. This is as good as I can be. No, you know what? How about you apply yourself and learn how to be the best sacker at the grocery store? Not a sacker, but the best sacker. How about you put a smile on your face so that every customer that comes through wants to go through your lane? Because what will happen, and we'll see this in the notes when you look down in it, what will happen is the manager of the store will see their excellence. He will see, or she will see, that Tony's striving hard to make the customers happy and to make them feel good. If you're not doing those kind of things, in your job, you might be a painter, a plumber, an electrician, a business person like an accountant or an attorney or a church person. You may be on staff at the coolest church in North America, or maybe the satellite, the campus of a church in North America, and decide that I'm going to apply myself like a different way. Like Kaylee is going to say, you know what, I come from Sky to Tulsa to go through this internship, and I'm going to study harder than everybody else does, and I'm going to read all the doggone books that they pile in front of me, and I'm going to make sure that I wash my face every morning and that I'm cleaned up and ready to go. She can apply herself like that, and she can be the best intern this church has ever seen. Okay? Or she can be stuck in the, I just do what I do. I'm just kind of here. Whatever they tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do today. Man, I'm telling you, you're not going to provide leadership for other people, and you're not going to get your feet on the solid ground that God's got for you as long as you just go along, get along, go along, get along. You have got to apply yourself to be better than where you're at. Okay? So whatever your job is, if you're the president of a company, man, you ought to be applying yourself to be the president of 2 companies, Daniel. How's that, right? Like I want 2. I don't want 1, I want 2. Okay? And if I'm 2, I want 3. Let's me and you hook together and get number 3. How's that? Okay, so that's the way it's got to be. Daniel chapter 6, verse 3. Then Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and the satraps because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. I cannot say that word right. Scott? Realm? Say it. Realm. Okay, so Scott's word right there. I can't say that word. All right, so you see, that's what Daniel did. He applied himself, and he thought different, and he thought outside the box, and he could do what he was told. Okay? We're not talking about being disobedient or being insubordinate to your boss or allowing people to treat you that way as their boss. That's not what we're talking about, but we are talking about thinking out of the box and bringing new ideas and new ways to do things. Excellence will lift your life. Excellence is always recognized, always, always recognized. I can be around some pretty high-flying people sometimes. They're a president of a company, or they're an attorney, or they're a doctor, or whatever it might be. And it's the funniest thing, you know, you get caught up in going to these receptions with these people so you can meet other people. It's this networking thing. Scott makes a living doing it. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like you got to be in the right place with the right people. And you're relatively unimpressed usually, except for this. I watch these people, men or women, either one, and the typical thing they'll look for when they go to one of these receptions is how well it's organized. Not whether the food's great or not, because they know that cannot be anybody's fault. But if it's not together, if the room's not clean, if things aren't excellent that they can control, these people are going to check out and go home. And they're not going to buy the service. They're not going to spend their money on the product. They're not going to give that other person business. They are looking for excellence. So that was a key to me. Like, maybe that's how you get to be a CEO. Those are the guys that are looking for something wrong, not what everything right is. They're looking for something excellent. So I'm cool with that. I understand that. So that's what the Word tells us to do. Excellence will cause you to stand out. If you're the excellent person in the room, if you're Corey Fowler in this room tonight, you stand out, right? Because she can come up here and she looks real nice and she speaks pleasantly and she makes you smile and she makes your food whatever you need, right? So Corey stands out. Like every one of you in this room knows who Corey is. And 6 months from now, you'll still know who Corey is. You probably won't know who I am. Some of you might not know who I am right now, but she is so excellent, she is so head and shoulders above that everybody knows who Corey is. That's very cool. All right, Daniel 5:12. Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation. This is what I'm talking about when I say excellence will cause you to stand out. So the king looks past everybody else and says, I need Daniel. Okay? Because he says all these things about him, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles. The first thing he said was an excellent spirit. Okay? So all that other stuff that everybody strives to get now, like who doesn't want to be the prophecy dude on TV, right? That's the best job in the world. I want to do that, but man, the king was looking for an excellent spirit first. Okay? Senior leaders notice excellence and promotion follows. So while you got it going through your head, rattling around your knowledge knot, trying to figure out how am I going to make more money, how am I going to get better at this company, how am I going to get to have a bigger job and be a more important person, while all that's rattling around up there, how about you start showing some excellence? And that promotion just falls. It comes to you. You don't have to find it. It comes to you. Daniel 5:14, I've heard of you that the Spirit of God is in you and that the light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Excellent wisdom are found in you. Excellence does not please everyone. You got to go to work in a factory that works 3 or 4 shifts to find out how ugly this gets. Or work for a union someplace where there's an old-timer who thinks, man, if you do more than 4 pieces an hour, you're going to mess the rest of us up. So you got to slow down, right? And it's not anything against unions. I love that. I've told you guys how I feel about that. It's a rule book, man. We all got a rule book to play by. It's great, okay? But there are people who become influencers in situations like shift work, where they say, oh, my shift, first shift, we cooked 67 pieces of fried chicken today to send to Guts Church, because y'all got grease all over your faces, I'm just going to tell you right now. All of you got Chicken Express all over you. So that first shift down there was saying, man, we cooked all that chicken for Guts Church. And the second shift came in and said, we cooked it all for Rhema. And so they're a real Bible school. They got a whole bunch more people than we got. So they're all bragging about these shifts are competing. And finally, the first shift supervisor, who's always kind of the head supervisor, I don't know how that works, but if you're the day shift guy, you're always kind of the boss. He starts talking to the other off shift supervisors and telling them, I don't know what you guys are doing at night, but you need to knock it off because you made twice as many parts as we did, and there's no way your quality can be any good. And you just got a bunch of housewives working for you at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no way they can outdo all these stallion, thoroughbred dudes that I've got on first shift. And all that stuff really does happen because people want to dumb you down to where they're at. Because their mediocrity, their go along and get along attitude is stronger with most other people than you're striving for excellence. And I'm telling you, you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the people around you if you let people pull you back like that. You got to press forward. You have got to keep doing excellent work, no matter what the situation is. Much of the church and society is very content with being mediocre, right? I can't say this enough. Think about it. Go along and get along. I don't want to make waves. I don't want to make this harder than it is. I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to be the bad girl. I don't want to be the confrontator. The confrontator? Confronter. There we go. Confronter. Commentator. Confronter. Yeah. Okay. I don't want, see, that's the truck patch coming out of me right there. I'm just telling you guys, that's the hillbilly that showed up right there. Sorry. Because hillbillies make up their own language. If you haven't ever noticed that, they have a different thing. So people are more satisfied, more comfortable with being mediocre in most circumstances. And so they're going to push back against you when you're trying to do more and do better at it. Okay? Don't let them get in your way. My dad used to say something to me all the time. I'm sure his dad said it to him. Don't read your own headlines. Whether they're good or bad, don't read your own headlines. So Pastor Bill started saying this, and it's one of the things that connected me to Guts Church. Was one of the first times I ever heard him preach, was he would say, it's similar to what my dad would say with don't read your own headlines. Pastor Bill would always say, be careful when people are only saying good things about you. That's when you got to watch your back, when people are only saying good things about you. So we don't pay a lot of attention to what everybody else says about us, good or bad, okay? Because let me tell you something. For everybody I could line up that I know that would say, Tony's a good man, he cared about his family, he loves God, there's just that many people that would say, he's the biggest horse's patoot I've ever met in my life. He's difficult to get along with, he's challenging, and he's mean. He's got a mean streak. Okay? So you could find that school of people. You know what I choose to believe? What God says about me. Forget about the good things or the bad things that people say about me. How about I want to read what Psalm 8 says. Sorry, my little electronic device went out on me here. It says, for you've made him a little lower than the angels, and you've crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. That's what God says about me. It's not whether I'm a great person or a great teacher or a great whatever. It's what God says about me, and he gave me dominion over all this stuff. And if you don't believe that, you're not challenging me, you're challenging God's word. Okay, Luke 6:26. Woe to you all when all men speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. Excellence is going to reflect God's mercy, love, and grace. Psalm 36:7. How precious is your loving kindness, O God. Therefore, the children of men put their trust under the shadow of your wings. 1 Corinthians 12:31. But earnestly desire the best gifts, and yet I show you a more excellent way. So we're always going to want the best things, but God shows us a more excellent way. Hebrews 8:6. But now he has obtained a more excellent ministry, inasmuch as he is also mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. Man, I'm telling you, that's a scripture my wife and I say over finances every morning that the sun comes up on the earth. You'll find Tony and Abby Clyburn saying, man, he's the mediator of a better promise. He gave me a better deal. The way you speak words, 1 Corinthians 14:12, even so you, since you are zealous for spiritual gifts, let it be for the edification of the church that you seek to excel. Takes all of it off the table again, right? Because every one of you that's here is plugged in somehow to this church. You're not just a casual attender. Like you're doing something here, right? That's what it's all about. That's what the word says right there. This is for edification of the church, just to make it more excellent. Okay, so let's do that. Let's just be part of that excellence. Excellence is displayed in the way you speak, words that breathe life and line up with the word, no corridor talk. Excellence is displayed when you are not the person standing around the water cooler in the break room, jaw-jacking about how bad the boss is and how bad the stock looks and how bad that guy screwed up the deal on third shift. When you're not that person, excellence starts to show up. So if you want to be one of the ninnies and get right in the mix with all that stuff, you're not going to be excellent, and you're not going to prove excellence to anybody. And if you think when you work by yourself most of the time like me, and you work for yourself like I do, that you can't still have water cooler conversation, let's go talk to the seltzer sometime, right? Like, that happens, man. And we're all pulling the same plow, right? Like, we're going the same direction. But sometimes I'm on a job all by myself, and I get frustrated, and I get aggravated, and I think, I had to cut the guy's rate to even get this job, and then he's going to jack me around about how I didn't do something right, and you just start falling into that same thing. Man, stop. Just stop. You're above that. Proverbs 8:6, listen, for I will speak of excellent things, and from the opening of my lips will come right things. Proverbs 17:7, Excellent speech is not becoming to a fool, much less lying lips to a prince. You can't lie to the boss and you can't talk smack with the fellas, okay? Because you're just spinning your wheels, all right? You got to get above that. You got to get up above that. Your spirit, and then the next thing, the second thing in excellence is displayed in your spirit, being calm in the midst of it all. Proverbs 17:27, he who has knowledge spares his word, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Understand this. Every time something goes wrong, the world freaks out. And typically, the root of it is they think it's going to affect their money. It's going to take money out of their business. It's going to take money out of their own personal budget. That's where you see people flip, and I mean flip, is when they think there's a money issue involved. Now, they'll get pretty wound up when their kids are in that too. Like if you start messing with somebody's kid, you're looking to get punched in the face, okay? So there's a couple of areas where you can pretty much pick where people are going to come unhooked, and you have got to stay calm in that situation. Because I'm telling you, man, people get in a scrape, they get in a situation where something really difficult's going on, and they are looking for somebody who could just come in and mediate that a little bit and get it calmed down. It doesn't matter if it's an adult fighting with a teenage kid fighting with a teenage girlfriend or boyfriend. Man, I'm telling you, when it's all down to the rubber on the road, people are looking for somebody who can be calm and just talk them off the ledge a little bit, right? So when I get in trouble and I get mad and I'm kicking the tires on my truck and Tim walks by, Tim comes up and puts his hand on my shoulder and says, man, what's up? What's going on with you? Why are you so wound up right now? Let's talk for a minute. And that calm spirit, man, it's like David playing the harp for Saul, right? Like it just calms things. So we want to be that kind of a person, that calm spirit in the midst of all the turmoil that goes on. And listen, if you're distracted right now, I want you to get your head back in the game, because I'm telling you, tomorrow you're likely to walk into a situation that is turmoil and jacked up, and somebody's going to be looking for you to say the right thing, to be in the right spot at the right time, to be able to hold your tongue with jumping on one side or the other and just say, hey, let's all just get a drink of water, take a breath, and come back at this another direction. All right? So dial in with me here. We just got a couple of minutes left, and it's hotter than heck up here. I feel like I'm working, Tim. I feel like I'm working, like I'm earning my pay tonight. I'm going to get some Chicken Express on the way home. Okay. Proverbs 12, number 3, our personal lives, our commitment to excellence ought to be greater than that of our neighbor and inspire those around us. If your house needs paint, paint it. If you can't paint it yourself, I know a guy, sits right up here on the front row, he'll paint for you. He'll get you hooked up. If your yard needs mowed, mow your dang yard. You know, don't live like everybody else does. If your car is old and it needs waxed, then wax it. Don't go to Bob and buy a new car just because your car needs to be waxed. Put a little elbow grease in it. Now, Bob will be mad at me for saying that because I want him to sell a lot of cars, and he does without any help from me, Jesse. Bob does okay. But you understand what I'm saying. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater all the time. Sometimes you got to fix, you got to repair, you got to maintain yourself, right? Okay, so there's way too many of us that make a living off of going in whenever somebody has a problem and they don't want to fix it themselves. They'd rather pay me. They'd rather pay a plumber. They'd rather pay. Maybe all you got to do is plunge the toilet, okay? Maybe all you got to do is replace the light bulb. You don't always have to call somebody. But don't let your junk run into junk, okay? Get your stuff straight. Around your home, around your car. I'm telling you, I do this, and I'll never admit this to another group this large again for the rest of my life, Cassidy. But I'm telling you, and this is going to upset some of you, you're going to not like me after this. When I interview people for a new job, excuse me, my voice cracked a little bit. I think I need a drink of water, but I'm all right. I'll typically push them off to another manager to talk to for a minute, and I will sneak around outside to the parking lot, and I want to see what the inside of their car is like. So let me tell you something. If you're coming to see Tony about a job, and you got piles of junk in the front seat and the back seat of your car looks like you and Aunt Ethel are living in there, you're probably not going to work with me, because that's typical of how people do everything else, right? Because I sure don't want you to be working some high-rise office in downtown Tulsa doing a job for somebody that's really important, and you got your desk all junked up, because if your car's junked up, your desk is probably going to be junked up. So if you got a bunch of junk in your car or your truck tonight, go home, take it all out, decide what needs to be in there, and then put it in something, make it look nice. Make it look like it belongs there, and not like you just threw it over the back seat. Because if you get in my truck and you step on a McDonald's hamburger, you ought to be mad at me, right? Like if there's one laying back there and you step on it, you ought to be mad at me. So we're going to do a little better than that. We're going to show some excellence personally and professionally. We're going to learn more than we've ever learned. We're going to work harder than we've ever worked before. We're going to trust God that He brings promotion. Not any man brings promotion to you, God does. And there's a few prerequisites for that. And don't kid yourself, and don't let any crazy doctrine teach you something else. You got to do part of this for God to take you to the next place. Because what God did was He sent His Son to die on the cross to take care of that. You know that's base level, right? We got to have more. We got to be wanting more. We know we're not going to burn in hell. That's fire insurance. Come on now, somebody get with me on this. We got to want a little bit more. We got to try a little harder. We got to do a few more things. So we're not going to earn our spot in heaven by our works on earth. But you know what? We can do a little better for our families. We can do a little better for ourselves. And God doesn't have any issue with that. He's fine with you working hard and being excellent and trying to do a little better while you're here on earth. Okay? Because He's got it all taken care of after this. Everything's going to be good. We will be on streets of gold. It's going to be awesome, and I'm looking forward to it. But I got a job to do here while I'm on earth, and that's be excellent. And your job is to be excellent. And if you want to lead, you're going to have to pull that out. If you don't want to lead, you go along, rock along, get along, let your car be a mess, whatever. Let your house need paint, let whatever it is, okay? Or you can just straighten up, clean up, do the right thing, and show excellence. All right? Thank you, guys.